What's going on, everybody? John Eric Paulai here with my MMA news, and today's guest just recently defeated Karolina Wojcik by a fourth round submission to retain her Invicta FC strawweight title. Joined today by Danni McCormack. Danni, nice to see you. Congratulations on the title defense.
Thank you. Nice to be back on the show.
So you've had a few days now, right, to let this kind of sink in and settle in. Just what did you make of your performance?
Yeah, I was really happy with my performance. I felt like I felt very comfortable in there and composed and confident, and yeah, so for once I felt I got to perform really free of like nerves and stress and stuff. So that was one of my best ever performances, just because of that, because my mindset was really strong going into it.
I'd say it definitely showed, that's for sure. Before we get in, I guess, the X's and O's too of the fight, I guess just one other thing I wanted to ask you. I know right after the fight, you flew back over to Ireland, so you had a little bit of time over there now. Just what was it like getting back home after the title defense, celebrating and taking it all in?
Yeah, it was great. It's nice to have like a little bit of downtime and stuff, but I like mainly just getting back into routine and get back walking the dogs and back into our gym in the evening and stuff and cleaning the house. And I got the Christmas decorations up today. So, all that kind of stuff, just normal stuff is like all I really look forward to after a fight, just getting back to normal.
Hey, I'm a big Christmas person too. I know I help my parents get their Christmas stuff up. I'll be getting my Christmas stuff up pretty shortly here myself. So let's get into the fight game here now, here a little bit. So before we even talk about a punch that was thrown that night, coming into the fight, if I'm not mistaken, you and Karolina had a little bit of history of being friends and being very respectful to one another. Just out of curiosity, I mean, how is it, like, how difficult is it to fight somebody that you do have that mutual respect for and that somebody you are friends with like that?
Like that was my second time to do that. I fought another girl the same way who had trained with me in SVG on like a training holiday. So like I suppose just from having a number of fights now, I have a bit more experience of that and realize that it's a small world, and you can be training in one gym and just on a holiday or something, and then the next week you're matched to fight someone's training partner from that gym or something like that. So, I was better prepared for it because I had done it before. But I, at the same time, I still, didn't want to be watching her stories or following all her Facebook and Instagram as much as I would have been normally. I just could try to avoid it, and still, I still need to win this fight. I still need to get the job done and keep my belt. So as much as it was going to be awkward in that way, at the same time, I think Karolina's lucky she got a good, chance of getting a second shot at the title because of our history. So I think it was a positive that our history was for her, that she got this opportunity. So yeah, it was a bit strange, but once we seen each other fight week, it was fine. It was like most other fight weeks, just we weren't sitting around chatting. We just said hello and had a hug or a handshake or whatever. But we wouldn't sit down chatting like we would on other fight weeks.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what was fight week actually like with you guys? Was it usually just pretty quick, hi, how are you, give each other a hug and move on sort of thing?
Yeah, I didn't see her a lot. I think she's a night owl and I'm a morning owl or whatever that is. I don't think owls are in the morning. I'm a morning bird maybe, and so I didn't see her that much, but I seen her coach loads, and we sat down and had like hour-long conversations with her coach because he's a friend of ours too. And at one point, I was like, I should just ask him what the game plan is, just as a joke. But then I was like, no, I better now in case he gets awkward about it. But yeah, I didn't see her a huge amount. But yeah, just like hugs, handshakes, nods of the head kind of thing. And we just didn't get into a lot of conversation. But she didn't bring any heat or anything like that. Like she was the same as always.
All right, let's get into the actual fight itself here now. So for you, you came out really wanting to dictate the pace. It seemed like you were right in her face, pressuring her. Was that your game plan coming in to kind of make her uncomfortable and be right in her face at all times?
Yeah, I guess that's the way I fight always, you know. So I don't remember ever coming out and not doing that to anyone. So I've done that since my amateur career, and you know that's the part of fighting I like. Like I like a pace, I like pressure, and I like feeling like I'm in a fight. So yeah, that I think she knew I was going to do that. And when we fought years ago, I did the same thing. I like walked her down and came at her. So that was it was a part of the game plan, but it was also, you know, it's a huge part of me that's just the way I fight.
And I don't know why. Like for me, I just like when I was envisioning this fight, I was just imagining you guys like really squaring up and going at it like in the center of the cage there. A lot of clinch work in this one. I know you were pushing her, getting her back up against the cage there. Was that part of the game plan as well to do that sort of stuff, or is that just kind of how the fight kind of took itself?
I think she initiated the clinch stuff first. Well, I think I got the first clinch, but then she got the first, you know, real dominant clinch positions, and she got the first takedown. But you know, it was clever strategy from her because if you're planning on going 25 minutes and not getting taken down by someone who's known to be a wrestler, then it's kind of a silly game plan, in my opinion. It's going to be very hard to be a good enough striker that you're going to do enough damage or stop this person who's going to consistently try and grapple. You're better off to like join in and get your own grappling off as well. So I think it was smart from her. I was a bit surprised that she wanted to grapple as much as she did, but for me, you know, since we fought back then, I didn't grapple much at all. Now, like I mainly grapple, so that was always going to be what I was going to do. But a fair deuce to her, she wanted to grapple too and get her own scores off.
Another thing too that I found interesting from this fight, so as you're pressuring her, you're walking her down. There was a few times that she did have a few good counters, and you just walked right through her shots there. Just talk about that. Like, was there ever a moment where she hit you with anything that you really felt, or was it just it didn't matter? You're gonna go right through her no matter what.
Yeah, like I don't seem to get hurt that much other than like getting dropped. And even when I get dropped, I don't really feel the shot. So I think when I'm in fight mode, I don't feel it. You know, there was nothing I got hit with that I was concerned about, and that's probably my biggest weakness. That when I get hit a few times, I don't really react because I don't care. You know, so maybe I need to care a little bit more to make sure that doesn't happen in the future. But no, there was nothing that significantly hurt me at all. Just one punch I remember saying, "I think that's going to bruise," and that was all. That was all I said to myself.
All right, so now just the one last thing from this fight. Take us through the finish.
Yeah, like I, you know, I needed to get a finish really, like not in terms of the scores. I was well up on the judges' scorecards, but in terms of where I'm going next, like I'm 8-2 now, and you know I want to get into the UFC, and they want finishes. So it was a goal of this fight to get a finish. So as the fight was going on, I was running out of time. Really, I only had 2 rounds left. So when I went out to the fourth round, I was determined that at any opportunity I was going to shoot, and I ended up getting the back and dragged her off the fence and pulled her out onto the open mat, which is harder for her to defend, and got her to the floor pretty easily. And you know, then I seen the back, and I have 2 choices: I can flatten her out and just beat her up, or I can jump on the back and try and finish. And thinking about that UFC in you know my future, I said right, time to jump on the back and finish this fight. So you know, it was all over pretty quickly at the start of the fourth round, just by having that mindset and having a bit of killer instinct. So yeah, I was really happy with myself for doing that. I think I probably could have done that in a lot more fights. You know, I've had 3 finishes now, but I probably could have done that in all of my fights if I had put my mind to it. But sometimes when I'm in there, I'm having so much fun and I'm just enjoying myself. I forget that you know sometimes you just gotta take risks and they pay off. And that fight really showed that kind of development in my game that I seen it and I went for it and took her out. So I'm pretty happy with that.
So I'm glad that you brought up the thing about the UFC wanting finishes, because I wanted to ask you about that moment on the microphone after the fight where you pretty much said, right, McMahon said to you, "Hey, we want to see finishes." I was a little shocked that they really actually come to you and say that to you, like, "Hey, you need to get a finish somewhere."
So it's not like after you have a fight, they contact you. You know, if at the time when I won the belt, my manager and my coach was talking to McMahon about me. But you know, he can't say a whole pile because I'm still in contract with Invicta. But his initial thoughts of me as a fighter was, well, she's not got any. She didn't finish that fight. He didn't say she's not got any finishes because I did, but he said, you know, she can't be going 25 minutes. Like we want to see finishes. So that was the feedback we got from them, that they didn't want me after the first title. After the first time I got the title, they instructed that they wanted to see finishes. So now he said that, of course, like off the record, and then I kind of announced it on the record. So maybe I'm giving a few other girls around the world a heads up that that is what they want, and that's what they specify. So I was just reminding him. He said you wanted to finish. I got you one. You know, I'm still here waiting for my contract. You know, I did what you told me. Give me a chance. I deserve it.
Well, I would think that they should be calling pretty soon. Now, I was going to ask, any word from the UFC after that performance?
No, there's been no yes or no. You know, they have my information. They're in talks with my manager. But the last time it was like, it was a more clear no, you need to get a finish. Whereas this time there hasn't been an answer either way. So I think that's probably a good sign that they're still, you know, figuring out where to put me or what to do with me maybe. Um, like if they don't take me now and they expect me to go and fight again, I would be the only Invicta champion to go 3 times and defend the belt 3 times. Everyone else would have got brought to the UFC before that. So it would be a bit unlucky and a bit unfair if that happened to me, especially after getting that finish. But you know what? It's out of my control. And if that's what they want and that's what they say, then we'll go and do it. But I'm positive that, you know, I might get in the next few weeks. But either way, I'm either going to get into the UFC or I'm going to get a third belt in Invicta. Third time or 3-time Invicta champion, first person ever. So, you know, that's something to get up for in the morning, either way.
Yeah, definitely. At least, a lot of bright things on the horizon there for you. I guess just last question then before we wrap things up here today. Plans for 2024. I guess obviously step one is to get into the UFC, but when you're kind of looking at the new year here, what's kind of the way you kind of envision things playing out?
I'd love to know what's happening with the UFC between now and Christmas so that I can plan. It's hard to plan when you don't know what's next. So I know Invicta is definitely March, and I presume there'd be a similar kind of timeline if it was for the UFC as well. So you know, I keep training, I keep doing my thing here in Mullingar, but I can't really plan what's going to happen in 2024 until I get a timeline. But whatever the timeline is, I'll be ready and I'll be training. And you know, next year is going to be a big year for me. This year was my championship run, and next year could be a whole new chapter. And I'm very excited about it.
Well, Danni, I'm absolutely confident that the UFC is definitely going to be calling you for sure. That was a great performance that you put on. Congratulations again on the win, on the title defense. Just last thing now before you head out for the day. Social media, so people know where to follow you at. You have management and sponsorships, all that stuff that you got to plug. Floor is yours. Take it away.
Yeah, so Danni McCormack on Instagram, Danni McCormack on Twitter, and then huge thanks to my main sponsor, which is Forge Irish Stout and the Black Forge as well with that. They're Connor's businesses that sponsor me. So a huge shout out to them as always, and to all of my other sponsors as well. So yeah, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter. You're probably wasting your time on Facebook, to be honest with me. Definitely won't write back. But Instagram and Twitter, I'm pretty good. So you can catch me there, and maybe have a look back at my last 2 fights if you're interested. They were fun to watch, both of them. You won't be disappointed.